This is a republic, if you can keep it, with Mark Brewer and Jeff Timmer.
I'm Jeff Timmer. Welcome to the War is Boring, but Swimming Pools Are Fun episode of A Republic, if you can keep it.
I'm Mark Brewer. Donald Trump says he's getting bored with his war, and he doesn't care about the midterms. But he is laser focused on what matters, his reflecting pool renovation, diverting money from the national parks for his D.C. cleanup, the Arc de Trump, taking over District of Columbia golf courses, the UFC version of the ancient gladiator battles to the death, and reminding us daily that he has passed a dementia screening test at least 4 times.
His latest middle finger to the nation, suggesting that the Las Vegas-style Fight Club arena on what used to be the White House lawn become a permanent part of the landscape.
Don't know that in Paris, France, the Eiffel Tower, 1889 it was built. It was supposed to be taken down immediately after the World's Fair. And then they said, we sort of like it. Let's leave it up a little bit longer. And then they said, let's leave it up longer and longer and longer. Well, they never took it down. And, we're building something in front of the White House that's quite attractive to a lot of people. It's going to have the big UFC fight on June 14th. And I'm looking at it, and maybe we'll never, ever take it down.
Vegas has the Dome and Elvis Wedding Chapel. The home of presidents, if Trump has his way, will have its own dome and a massive bomb-resistant wedding reception hall. And it's being reported that Trump is looting money from the national park's maintenance to pay for his July 4th fireworks show, the reflecting pool, a White House helipad, and various D.C. what he calls cleanup projects. He'll burn up just $1.6 million just blowing up stuff on the 4th of July, even as he burns up billions every week, including blowing up stuff in Iran.
In an administration populated by the absolutely worst cabinet in American history, Trump every week seems to manage to lower the bar even further. This week, it was with the appointment of Michigander housing developer and certified Trump sycophant Bill Pulte as acting director of national intelligence, a job for which he has absolutely no qualifications. Actors Matt Damon and John Krasinski, a.k.a. Jason Bourne and Jack Ryan, would be more qualified. Adding to Trump's cabinet blues, the new director of Homeland Security, Markwayne Mullin, says as far as he's concerned, following court orders is entirely optional.
We are less than 3 weeks away from the start of voting in Michigan. The 4 races to watch, the 3-way Republican contest for the opportunity to battle Jocelyn Benson for governor, the 3-way Democratic contest to battle Mike Rogers for the U.S. Senate seat, and multi-candidate Democratic primaries for congressional seats based in Lansing and Macomb County. And in Macomb County, the Republicans also have their own primary.
This week's latest political giggle, and frankly a forerunner of what's to come with AI, is an AI-doctored photo of Republican Senate candidate Mike Rogers turning his relatively weak and unfit 63-year-old body into a modern-day Charles Atlas. That doctored photo has now gone viral. And what the heck? It's easier than putting in hours in the gym or even going on Ozempic to just put out a doctored AI photo.
Republicans in Congress are ever so slightly starting to push back on Trump outrages, and it's mostly because they're worried about losing their elections. The House passes a measure to stop Trump's Middle East war. Senators voted to strip $1 billion subsidy from his ballroom from the DHS budget, and both chambers are primed to outlaw efforts to revive the $1.8 billion slush fund to pay off the January 6th insurrectionists and other Trump fans.
And we find it very interesting that congressional Republicans are only starting to show signs of life and resistance to Trump after the candidate filing deadlines. For example, here in Michigan, Republican Congressman Tom Barrett, who no longer faces the possibility of a primary challenge, was one of only 4 Republicans voting this week to end the Iran war. But John James didn't join the GOP mini revolt because he's still dealing with a very serious gubernatorial primary. The political threat to non-compliant Republicans for pushing back against the great leader comes as doubts about Trump's mental and physical health continue to grow. His third physical exam since taking office, coupled with an incomplete post-exam report on what the doctors learned, his reduced work schedule, the cankles and bruising, falling asleep at public appearances, all have increased the speculation about his health. It certainly looks like both his political and mental powers are in decline.
We talked there about Tom Barrett, one of 4 Republicans who voted against Trump and for the Constitution on the War Powers resolution. In today's politics, it seems remarkable. These 4 Republicans had the backbone to uphold their constitutional oath, pass the bare minimum bar of what's expected and required of them, the separation of powers, Congress approving when we go to war rather than it just being up to one person. That has been the case since the founding of the country up through Trump. And it is unconscionable that more Republicans didn't join them. Should somebody like Tom Barrett, who's in a fight for his political life in one of the purplest swingy districts in the country, should he be rewarded for doing his job? Should it be notable, or should we just expect that of him? I mean, we got to remember this is still a guy who supported stripping Michigan's 5.6 million votes, nullifying them in 2020 to overturn the results of the Michigan election. This is a guy who still supports Donald Trump's tariffs, the damage he's done to the economy. Is it notable? Should he get praise? What do you think about this?
Well, as we mentioned in the opening remarks, Barrett has been nothing but a Trump sycophant the entire time. And I think, as we noted, it was noticeable that he did this after the filing deadline. This is nothing more than damage control. He's very worried. Obviously, he's in a very competitive congressional district. And worried about his electoral prospects in the fall. And I think this is his lame attempt at damage control. This is not him standing up and doing his constitutional duty, which he should have done a long, long time ago. This is him watching out for his political hide by saying he at least did something to oppose the war, because he knows the likelihood of this resolution passing the Senate, and then, of course, anything that has the force of law will get vetoed by Trump. So to a certain extent, this is the safest vote he could have taken, right? It's not going to go anywhere. He's past the primary deadline. And I don't think at this point the Republicans are going to abandon him, because that would mean abandoning the seat. So again, no, Jeff, he does not deserve any credit for this. People should see it for what it was. This was covering his political butt.
We've talked a lot all throughout this year, virtually weekly, about the way the fall race is shaping up, the way the political winds are blowing, the fact that they're blowing strongly in the face of Republican candidates like Tom Barrett. We have issues like inflation and affordability and gas prices that are driving the anxiety, which economic anxiety is at the worst, the highest point ever measured in post World War II America. Consumers are anxious about what the future holds, what it holds for their family, their job, their ability to keep their homes, pay for their health care, send their kids to school, go on vacation, and enjoy a lifestyle that they aspire to, that we've, Americans have become accustomed to. And the Republicans can't run on the economy. Everybody knows how shitty it is and who caused it. They can't run on national security because everybody knows how precarious a position we're in and who caused it. So where do the Republicans like Tom Barrett go. They can't just say everything is fucked up, elect me to Congress again. What do they do here? What can we expect to see from the Republicans writ large, and especially Republicans like Tom Barrett, as we move through these next few months before November?
Well, Jeff, to borrow a phrase, they run home to mama. And I got a preview of this last night. I was meeting with some Macomb County Democrats, and I was talking to a constituent of Republican Representative Joe Aragona, who just received a mailing. This is legislative mailing. It's not even campaign mailing yet. And the only thing in the mailing was talking about the danger of trans kids in high schools, the danger of men playing in women's sports, et cetera, et cetera. So they're going to run back to the culture wars.
Right.
As if, that is anywhere near the most serious threat to this country. We have foreign policy disasters. We have President kowtowing to foreign leaders like Putin and Xi in China. The economy is a wreck and getting worse. So the Republicans are going to run scare tactics. I expect to see more stuff, anti-LGBTQ, like this mailer I just described. I expect to see scare tactics when it comes to crime, even though by any reasonable measure, crime is down across the board. It's not the kind of threat that we're going to hear about. I think they're going to try to scare up more immigrant scare stories, even though their immigration policy is a disaster and Trump's numbers have plunged in that regard. But like I said, I think they're going to run home to mama, and they're going to try to make the fall elections about the culture wars, because that's the only thing they've got to try.
Yeah, I think, and I would add that they're going to really, focus on not just the made up crisis and threat of trans kids and women's sports and all of that, but I think they're going to really ratchet up crime. They're going to they've got to throw long and hope to connect. This is a Hail Mary pass. They need to scare or try to scare enough white suburban voters, especially white suburban college-educated voters who have been abandoning Republicans in droves over these last several election cycles. They have to scare the living shit out of them, make them afraid to go out of their house, thinking that the world is burning down, that if they go outside, if their kids go outside, if their wives or daughters or mothers ever leave the house, they're going to be raped by immigrant mobs. We can expect to see, I think, Willie Horton on a high dose of steroids across the country. I mean, we're going to see this. I think the language is going to start to come from the White House. You see how coordinated and disciplined the Republicans are with their message. When they will flip a switch and everybody will be talking about crime. The cable news sphere, the online podcasters, the social media MAGA world, the YouTubers, all suddenly everyone's going to be talking about crime. That's the only way they've got to win. They can't run on anything else. And so they've been trying, and Trump continues to try to say, down is up. Don't believe your eyes. Everything that's supposed to be up is down. And no one's buying it. He's historically unpopular and getting worse, and it's likely to get worse over these next several months because he has zero clue what to do with this boneheaded war he started with Iran. There's a reason 40 plus, nearly 50 years worth of presidents, Republicans and Democrats alike, have not gotten themselves stuck like Trump. Netanyahu saw Trump for the idiotic fool that he is and manipulated him into this. And this is exactly what the Iranians have been preparing for nearly 50 years. And they hold the cards in this situation. Our military might is unquestioned. We destroyed their military, but they still control the Straits of Hormuz and still control a significant portion of the world economy that flows through that in the form of oil, fertilizer for food. American farmers are struggling as a result of this. We haven't even seen the full impact of the prices spikes on oil in the downhill effect it has on gas prices, certainly, but then on everything else, gas, diesel, everything that's transported in this country by rail, by truck is going to cost more for a long time. And it's the economic anxiety is going to get worse before it ever gets better. I think everything we've seen in the country so far this year, and if you remember back in January, Venezuela going in and getting Maduro out of Venezuela, that was this year. It seems like 100 years ago. The unrest in Minnesota, the shooting, the summary executions of American citizens on the streets in Minneapolis was just like 4 months ago. It's mind-boggling how much fire hose of crazy that we've seen, and it's going to get worse. I think we have to. It's going to get worse this year before it gets better, because the walls are closing in around Trump and his enablers, and the crime spree, the corruption. It is massive. The insider trading. Trump has made more money in the 16 months of his second term than he's made in his entire life combined. It's a money grab for him and his family, for his friends, for his supporters. It is a third world kleptocracy textbook, what is going on right now. And we've got this dithering, gibbering, mentally addled president holding up charts that show that a pool of water is taller than a building. So is the road I live on. I mean, what is, and everyone's supposed to act like this is normal and he's okay. I mean, every day he's in 25th Amendment incapacitated mentally to lead territory, and no one will say anything. It's going to get worse before it gets better, because people are going to go to jail. People are going to have their lives and careers ruined by Donald Trump and their fealty to Donald Trump. And all of the people who are hoping on pardons better get him in, because this guy is not healthy. This guy is not healthy, and the promised pardon can't be given after he expires.
Right. No, Jeff, you're spot on. But I think also, too, Democrats here need to make sure they remember Jim Carville's old adage about "it's the economy, stupid," and stick to that. Their rejoinder on crime should be, where's the biggest crime spree in the country? It's in the White House. It's in the United States cabinet. It's in the Pentagon. It's in the Trump administration. And then pivot and talk about the economy, the need for health care, gas prices, housing, inflation, and talk about solutions to those problems, not wonky solutions. I mean, you gotta have a solution that, touches people and they understand they're going to get it, and you're going to do something for them that's going to be meaningful in their lives. But I really worry that Democrats are going to take the bait on these culture war things, and they just cannot. They should stay focused on the issues that are important to the American people, to the people in Michigan, and those are these economic issues. And don't get distracted by the culture war that's coming. And I think you're right, Jeff. It's going to be worse than Willie Horton. It's going to be worse than anything we've ever seen, particularly in the last 40 years, which is our measuring post at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be bad, because that's the only thing the Republicans have got to run on.
We mentioned in the open, we've got the gubernatorial race in Michigan, and in the Republican primary is the only one I think that holds any intrigue or surprise who's going to come through that. And I think we can expect a Trump endorsement here at some point. And, Trump's inflated manufactured track record of endorsing in primaries is driven by the fact that he and the people around him are good at seeing where the parade is headed, grabbing their baton and jumping out and leading it. And it seems with Mike Duggan getting out of the race, Republicans' chances to win the gubernatorial seat in Michigan have plummeted, and the likelihood of a Trump endorsement so that he can try to pump up his record and his ego is almost certain. And it would be I would rank the likelihood of his endorsement going in this order: Perry Johnson first, Mike Cox second, John James third. And I think that the Trump endorsement is the biggest thing that's going to happen in the Republican primary for governor. The other big primary that everyone in the country is watching is the Democratic primary for the U.S. Senate. Mike Rogers, the Republican, longtime congressman, longtime anti-Trump. Now he's a late blooming MAGA, and he's got the Republican nomination all to himself. But the three Democrats who are running, we've seen polls all over the place. Several polls lately have had Abdul El-Sayed with a either tied for the lead or slightly ahead. And we just get news as we're recording this podcast that the UAW has endorsed Abdul in the primary. Is that significant? It seems like it is, but is it as significant as it would have been, decades ago? How does that factor in? How do you see that impacting that race?
Yeah, I mean, I want to go back to the Republican gubernatorial in a minute, but I'll answer your question. I think it has an impact. I mean, the labor movement in the state has resources, not just the UAW, but other unions as well, and can mobilize their members. They're not as large, obviously, and as influential as they were 30, 40 years ago, when, frankly, the labor movement basically could dictate, frankly, who is going to run in a Democratic gubernatorial primary, for example. They could push people out of a Democratic primary. That's not the case anymore, but they still have enormous influence. They have large membership, a lot of retirees, and so that'll be a factor in the race. But, the other candidates have their own strengths. I mean, McMorrow is running a very strong grassroots campaign. She's really working it hard around the state, great online presence. Her online fundraising is outstanding. Stevens has got her own strengths, her own allies that are already putting significant money into the race. I expect the race to remain close until the end. There's going to be other endorsements in the race, or maybe non-endorsements, right? There'll be people who will stay out of the race as well. So, yeah, I mean, it'll have an impact, but I do expect the race to remain close till the end. But I want to go back to your comments on the Republican gubernatorial primary as well. I think you're right. At this point, it's a race for Trump's endorsement. He was a huge factor, obviously, in Tudor Dixon winning the nomination back in 24. I mean, I don't think there's any question. If you look back, that was a key moment for her, and she ended up winning the nomination, got crushed by Whitmer in the general, but Trump, I think, pulled her across the line. And I think that possibility is what's holding John James to be loyal to Trump, like this week's vote on the war resolution, right? Otherwise, he might have done what Barrett did, try to position himself as at least being somewhat opposed to Trump, but he dare not do that as long as he's got any hope at all of trying to get a Trump endorsement. But I think you'll see all of them, Mike Cox, Johnson, and James, now doing everything they can to suck up to Trump to try to get that endorsement before the primary in August.
We've got the 7th congressional being the Tom Barrett seat, the former Alyssa Slotkin seat, very, very, very competitive. And it's been, a competitive race, huge amounts of spending. Hundreds of millions of dollars now since 2018 have been spent in that district alone. We've got a very high profile Democratic primary, a former Ukrainian ambassador under both Biden and Trump, Bridget Brink. We've got Matt Masdam, a former Navy SEAL, a military officer for President Barack Obama. Both are raising a lot of money, getting significant endorsements in the district. We have William Lawrence progressive in the style more of Bernie Sanders, Abdul El-Sayed, who's got a lot of enthusiasm and some, I think, significant grass tops support, especially in the Lansing area, the Ingham County Democrats. It's been a fascinating race to watch. Do you see any significant movement happening in that primary right now, or is it just too early to call? Is it really a race between the candidates with big money, Brink and Masdom, or is Lawrence a significant factor? How do you see it?
Well, I think right now, I think it's a close three-way race. Look, I start with this premise: we have three good candidates. Democrats are really blessed in that race, in terms of it, and thankfully, and I've seen them campaign at various venues in the district. They're all staying positive, which, as a former party chair and even now as a regular old Democrat, I think it's really important that they stay positive, and that whoever comes out of that primary then has the best chance to beat Tom Barrett. And they not weaken our chances by attacking each other. It's only early June, so I hope that holds, because that was the mantra that I preached when I was party chair, and I'm sure you did the same thing inside the Republican Party when you were active there. Stay positive, talk about your biography, your message, your vision, and don't tear down the other Democrats, because all that does is help Tom Barrett. But again, I think that will be a very close race. And I think that one, and as well as the Senate primary that we talked about a moment ago, the nature of the turnout, I think, is going to be very, very important. Which parts of the Democratic base are motivated to turn out and vote for their respective candidates? I think we're going to see high turnout in the Democratic primaries this summer because of races like this, like the Senate race, for example. And so it's going to come down to that. Well, which candidates are doing the best job of getting their supporters out and getting their message out in the most effective way to motivate their voters and come out to vote for them. But Jeff, you're right. Those are the two most interesting races to watch, I think, in terms of the primary elections. I think there's an interesting primary going on in Macomb, in the 10th district on the Democratic side as well. I mean, I've got a favorite in that race, just as I've got a favorite in the 7th. But again, we got good candidates, and they're staying positive so far, and I just hope that continues, not only in the 7th, but in the 10th, as well as we head toward the August primary.
I would be stunned if in either the 7th or the 10th that the candidates stay positive. I just think, we always hope, and then it never happens. I mean, I think the reality...
It could be the outside groups, right, Jeff? I mean, there's outside groups as well.
The campaigns will, but I think we're going to see the fur start to fly. It's just, it's inevitable. It's just it's forcing voters to choose between the two. You don't, ultimately, you don't say, hey, we're just alike, pick me. There's got to be something to differentiate, and that's just the reality and the nature of any campaign. And so I think we're hopefully what we'll see is that the differentiation that they end up communicating is on policy, is on approach, is not going to be the kind of attacks that get into a personal nature that make it harder for the eventual nominee to win. I mean, we can still hope that there's not a slash and burn approach taken by somebody who, once they see themselves starting to fall behind, throw a
That's the
desperation
temptation.
pass.
That's exactly the temptation, Jeff.
Right.
The other thing I'm watching for in these races, too, is, when they're in debates and forums together, a pledge, frankly, that they will support the winner of the primary. I mean, to me, that's very telling. Is this about you, or is it about, winning this race and knocking out the Republican incumbent? And so I'm looking for those kinds of pledges in all these primaries as we move toward August.
More on a republic, if you can keep it, after these messages.
When most of us think about polling, the focus is on those campaign polls telling us which candidates are winning. But the most important polls are for businesses, local governments, and nonprofits assessing the needs and wants of their customers or constituencies.
Those are polls that guide policies and lead to institutional success. Those polls have to get it right, which makes the choice of a public opinion research firm critical. Epic MRA has been trusted for more than 4 decades to get it right. Our clients have included school boards, statewide nonprofits, corporations, as well as the candidates and news media who rely on us during political campaigns. Whether it's just a couple of questions or a full in-depth survey, we are here and ready to help.
You can reach us at epicmra.com.
We see seashells down by the shore. 8647, who could ask for more? But Donnie sees the photo and he starts to wail. It's a death threat, send the bum to jail.
Are you looking to stay ahead of the curve on Michigan's public policy landscape? Look no further than Michigan Information and Research Service Incorporated, or MERS. MERS is your go-to source for comprehensive, nonpartisan news and analysis on Michigan's government and public policy. But that's not all. A MERS subscription also gives you access to our powerful legislative monitoring and tracking tools. Stay on top of every bill, amendment, and vote with real-time updates, detailed reports, interactive committee transcripts, legislative analysis tools, and more. Whether you're a policymaker, lobbyist, or just a concerned citizen, MERS keeps you informed with daily updates, exclusive interviews, and detailed reports. Subscribe today and gain access to our extensive archives. Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay ahead with MERS. Visit MERS.news to learn more and subscribe. That's MIRS.news. Don't miss out on the insights that matter most.
That's our time for this week. A reminder for you to check out our partner podcast, Greed, Grifts, and Grabs, the Trump Corruption Chronicles, hosted by our most excellent producer, Walt Sorg. It's available exclusively on our YouTube channel. The latest episode looks at how Don Jr. and Eric, a.k.a. Sonny and Fredo, are using Daddy's name and clout to land hundreds of millions of dollars in federal contracts, loans, and subsidies for their own self-enrichment.
Yeah, when Hunter Biden does it, we get years of GOP congressional investigations. But when Sonny and Fredo, or I prefer to say Uday and Kusei Trump do it, it's God bless America. If the Republic is still standing, we'll be back in a week. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
A republic, if you can keep it, is a presentation of Michigan citizens for a better tomorrow.